When thoughts turn to September 11th, 2001, most of America and the world remembers the sight and sound of planes slamming into twin towers. Bodies falling to earth, lives and families altered forever. Of course, what happened in Manhattan is only a piece of the story. Lives lost at the Pentagon, more in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the people we have lost in the aftermath every day since. One woman working to keep memories of lost loved ones alive while fighting to increase cockpit safety is the widow of a former Navy pilot, Victor Saracini, who served his country proudly in the Vietnam era. He was at the helm of Flight 175 that morning, the plane that struck Tower 2 in downtown Manhattan. We are proud to welcome Ellen Saracini to the Hardline. Ellen, first of all, as someone who was profoundly affected by what happened in Manhattan, I want to tell you thank you for your efforts and for keeping this alive. We do need to point out that this is a very different memorial. This is something you're doing that is in the state of Pennsylvania and for the people in that township. Tell us a little bit about the Garden of Reflection.
Well, the Garden of Reflection was built because in Pennsylvania, per capita, we lost the most in our township. We lost 9 from Lower Makefield, and we lost 18 from Bucks County. We are really lucky not to be a crash site because our representation of September 11th is very different, as you were saying. The crash sites have to represent what happened on that day, but we have a different philosophy. We have a memorial journey where the lives lost are represented. At our memorial, we have 9 red maples that are there to represent the 9 from Lower Makefield. We have 18 trees to represent the 18. We have 42 lights in the ground that represent every child in Pennsylvania who lost a parent on that day. And our whole thought process about the Garden of Reflection is that it's after darkness, light. We celebrate the lives that are gone, and we also have etched in glass all 2,973 names that were now taken from us.
I'm sure that you've been there many times. This is something that's passionate to you. What overcomes you emotionally when you are there in a quiet moment?
Well, I remember Vic, my husband, and he was full of life. He had a contagious smile. He loved his family, loved his 2 girls. And so we are able to go and have a place that's very peaceful, very quiet, and very beautiful, and be able to just remember the lives that we had together.
Now, we talk about raising money here. You are getting some help. I want to bring in the man who privately is helping fund memorials such as the Garden of Reflection, $10 at a time. And that's a tough job to do. He's the owner of Stephen Singer Jewelers, and he is a philanthropist. Stephen Singer joins us. Stephen, what is it about this that makes you want to get out there, that tells you that this is something I have to do every day to raise this money?
Well, thanks for having me, Ed. It's in a very small way, our way to participate and help the memorial, and our pins that we're selling, that we sell for $10 at a time, have raised in excess of $400,000 to date. They say on the pins, the actual pin itself, which I'm wearing, has a 9 and an 11, and 11 is sculpted out of the picture, that iconic picture of the 2 twin towers with the antenna, and underneath says "Never Forget." And the whole thing that pushes me is meeting and talking to Ellen and other people that were directly affected by 9/11, is we want to make sure that people never forget, whether it's our children, our children's children. This was a terrible, terrible tragedy to happen on the shores of our great country. And in one small way, we're able to participate and help, and we think make a small difference.
Ellen, something else about this interview that we want to point out. You are very much in favor of pushing forward the legislation to make sure that there is a second door, that there is more cockpit safety. When 9/11 happened, we were told that everything would be done. Yet it seems as if things have fallen back a little bit, and it doesn't seem to be on the front plate of a lot of, not just legislators, but also of the airlines themselves. That has got to be disappointing to you.
Well, absolutely. Victor was taken, and so was everyone else, taken because of a breach of the cockpit. And so a study has been done, and that study showed that using the most robust form of protection that the airlines can today, meaning a flight attendant and a cart, that the cockpit can still be breached in under 2 seconds. And for me, that's unacceptable. I've taken it on as a mission of mine to make sure that the cockpit is safe. 4 airplanes came down on September 11th, and they came down for one reason only, because unstable or terrorist individuals are able to get into the cockpit. And so there is legislation out there, and it's in the House, it's H.R. 911, and in the Senate, it's Senate 911, appropriately numbered. And it's the Saracini Aviation Safety Act. And this legislation would mandate a secondary barrier to be put on every commercial passenger airplane. And a secondary barrier is just a lightweight gate that would get locked into place just during those times when the cockpit door is open. And once the cockpit door closes, the gates would be retracted and put back into the wall. I reference it as a big person baby gate because that's all it is. It's a simple, easy fix to make sure that what happened on September 11th never happens again.
Ellen, I only have about 30 seconds left. Are we as a nation forgetting? Are we sometimes, with time, are we forgetting what a day this was and what it means to us?
I think a lot of times people do forget because as time passes, other things in life just take over. You know, somebody said to my daughter one time when they were interviewing her, they said, "So this is your hard day?" And she said very poignantly, "No, this is your hard day. Every day is our hard day." And I think that we do have to remember, and that's what the Garden of Reflection is all about. And it also is about this endowment campaign that we're on right now to preserve this 9/11 memorial for future generations to remember and honor all those that we lost.
It is a marvelous effort that both of you have undertaken. This is something that we must never forget as a nation, and we must constantly remind people of the families and the people that stayed behind. Ellen Saracini, Stephen Singer, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with the Garden of Reflection. And stay with us. The Hardline continues.